The head of communications at the Boeing Company, Neil Golightly, resigned in July 2020 for an article he wrote when he was a 29-year-old Navy pilot in the 1980s. He wrote then why women shouldn't take part in combat. 33 years later, even though he no longer holds the same view, he stepped down because Boeing disagrees with the view expressed in that article. At the same time last year, BLM Antifa rioters were vandalizing streets and smashing statues of our founding fathers. Throughout the summer, they wanted to destroy our American heritage by force. We were shocked by both events. 6 months later, just a few days ago, the San Francisco School Board voted 6-1 to remove Abraham Lincoln, George Washington, and others from the names of 44 San Francisco schools. They will be replaced with new names that have no connection to slavery, oppression, racism, genocide, or similar criteria, according to the board. Within a short 6 months, from feeling shocked to not shocked, we have voluntarily surrendered our heritage to cancel culture by voting our founding fathers out. So what's next? Hello, welcome to Lei's Real Talk. I'm Lei. After a long debate that caught national attention, the San Francisco School Board deemed that George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and James Madison are unworthy of the honor of being on its school names because they owned slaves. Abraham Lincoln also got banned because of his treatment of Native Americans, and the suggested new names to replace them: Barack and Michelle Obama. A school board member said this after the decision: "It's a message to our families, our students, and our community. It's not just symbolic, it's a moral message." So what moral message are they sending? That Obama is a more fit name for our school than Lincoln? Do people know that Lincoln is Obama's favorite president? So would Obama be canceled one day because he likes a racist? What also seems absurd is that the board didn't know whether the Roosevelt Middle School was named after Theodore or Franklin Roosevelt, but decided to remove it anyway. Some people think that cancel culture is laughable because it doesn't make sense. It totally doesn't make sense, but don't laugh, because it's deadly. I will tell you a story to explain why it's deadly. But let's first take a look at what cancel culture is. The root of cancel culture is communism, and it has a hidden agenda. Getting rid of names like Washington and Lincoln isn't the purpose. Changing our history is. Cancel culture's real purpose is to cut American people off from our heritage and from who we are. It must do so because it's very difficult to brainwash those who have traditional values and strong cultural roots. The scheme is to use name-calling and shame to make people voluntarily give up their tradition and heritage. Isn't that what we saw in the case of the Boeing executive? Also included in the list of names removed in San Francisco is current Democratic Senator from California, Dianne Feinstein. She was the city's first female mayor, but she was canceled because 37 years ago, when she was mayor, she replaced a vandalized Confederate flag that was part of a historical collection of flags displayed at City Hall. Because of that, her constituents now feel ashamed to name an elementary school after her, and her name will be removed. The communist worldview requires absolute conformity. It doesn't matter who you are, whether you are a liberal or a conservative, a Democrat or a Republican. If you disagree, they will eliminate you. They will eliminate your voice and you physically. Cancel culture is like a deadly cancer. It starts in one cell and quickly grows into a malignant tumor. If we don't do something about it, it will metastasize and eventually take our life. We all know that cancer diagnosis has 4 stages. The cancer is small in stage 1. Stage 2 is when the cancer has grown, but hasn't spread. And in the final stage, stage 4, the cancer has spread to other parts of the body and has metastasized out of control. We're in stage 2 right now and are quickly approaching stage 3. The tumor is getting larger and just starting to spread. So now what? Let me tell you a real story. When the Cultural Revolution began, Zhang Tiefu was a teenager. He changed his name, which literally means Iron Man, to Zhang Hongbing, which means Red Guard, to show loyalty to the party. When young people were encouraged to turn against their superiors, he put up a poster that publicly criticized his father. He believed what the propaganda said at the time. You think your mother and father are endearing, but not as endearing as Chairman Mao. It was a cold night on February 13, 1970. Zhang's mother, Fang, questioned Mao Zedong in front of her family. She said, "Why do we see Mao's poster everywhere? Isn't this personal worshipping?" She also voiced her firm support for Liu Shaoqi, who was Mao's political enemy and China's public enemy #1 at the time. She said she was adamant to see Liu's reputation restored. Because of these words, Fang's husband and son turned her in to the regime. Emotionally distraught, Fang burned Mao's picture at home that evening. Military personnel soon came to arrest her. They kicked her to the ground and tied her up with thick ropes. Zhang heard his mother's shoulders cracking while he witnessed her being tied up. After his mother was taken away, Zhang and his father were told to write statements denouncing her. The teenage Zhang wrote at the end of his statement, "Down with the counter-revolutionist Fang. Fang should be executed." 7 weeks later, on April 8, 1970, his mother was given the death sentence and was executed 3 days later in front of a large crowd. Zhang's revolutionary righteousness was later honored by the Chinese Communist Party, and his action was put on display at a local revolutionary museum and went on a road show. 43 years later, in an interview, Zhang was asked if he felt any regret that fatal evening. Here's what he said. "What's on my mind was not regret. I felt that our family had just gone through a political struggle, and my father and I stood on the right side. Politically, our behavior passed the test. At that time, we were all caught up in a certain state of mind, and no one could have escaped it. The goodness and tenderness in me had been completely and irrevocably reformatted." This is a very sad story. I hope it never happens again anywhere. Cancel culture will reprogram our thinking and reformat our relationship with each other. Zhang's story is a wake-up call to those who are canceling others. One day they will realize that every time they cancel someone, they've also canceled their own existence. About 9 years after his mother died, Zhang developed severe depression. He lost the ability to talk and lived in fear. He was socially and professionally ostracized, as people knew he was the boy who killed his mother. So what's next, you might wonder? If we don't stop the cancer of cancel culture, in 20 years, or maybe even sooner, the next generation won't know who George Washington and Abraham Lincoln were. After the Cultural Revolution wiped out traditional Chinese culture and rewrote Chinese history, I grew up in China believing that Confucius was a bad guy. I used to explain this to my American friends by using George Washington as an analogy. I asked them, could you imagine growing up believing that George Washington is a bad guy? I cannot believe that it is actually happening here right now. You may say we feel powerless in the face of censorship and cancel culture. But there is hope. I think that what happened on Wall Street during the last week is very enlightening. I'll talk about the significance of the GameStop stock price next week. Stay tuned. Don't forget to share and like my videos, and have a wonderful weekend.